According to people who were formerly associated with the ALDC, the studio wasn't always as it seemed on Dance Moms.
So were practices and events off camera different from when they were on camera? 100%.
While the show did capture a lot of drama, we didn't always get to see the ALDC's turbulent history or toxic culture. Welcome back to my series, Dance Moms Uncovered. Although Abby claimed that Dance Moms ruined her business, many people who were affiliated with the ALDC have claimed that business was bad at the studio even before the show came along. Christi has claimed that a lot of people left the year before Dance Moms began because parents became sick of Abby's favoritism. According to her, Kelly, and former ALDC choreographer Ed, Abby only had around 30 students left at her studio before the show began. Apparently the junior group, where Chloe, Maddie, Paige and Nia danced, barely had enough dancers to form a group anymore.
She had barely any students at this point.
No, we barely had enough people to do a group dance. We had to pull from other places. And I wrote, that's why she only had 30 students left when the show started.
They thought that Abby had this, kingdom of her studio. I'm like, those were the 5 kids on the show because those were the 5 kids left in that class.
How many people left the studio because they were sick and tired of the favoritism?
It's no secret that Abby had a lot of financial difficulties prior to the show. Diane Pent has tweeted evidence that she was unable to pay her phone bill. And back in 2010, we know that Abby filed for bankruptcy. Even the building itself seemed to be falling apart. The mums have explained that the wooden floors in Studio C would give students blisters, so the kids would only use it to run tap routines. Plus there were holes in the parking lot, which were only fixed once Abby sold the property.
Studio C is a tap studio. Like, the floors are wooden, they're full of splinters.
According to the mums, dancing at the ALDC didn't come cheap. The mums say that costumes could be up to $500 each. Melissa says that production paid for a lot of the girls' tuition, but the mums still had to pay for privates and costumes that were a part of routines that weren't competed on TV. In addition, parents were expected to pay $2,000 to have their kids' photos included in the ALDC yearbook each year. Apparently these shoots took around 10 hours to do, and the mums would have to spend the whole time at the studio getting their kids ready. And the mums on the show say that one year, they didn't even receive the yearbooks after they paid for them.
Like, solo costumes, they were like $500.
Production paid the dance studio for our girls' dance. So they would just get like a monthly bill. We still had to pay for privates and things like that weren't part of the show. We didn't have to pay for costumes or anything like that unless it was normal competitions from, our actual studio.
I remember one year it was like $2,000 some odd dollars to be in a book, to be in a yearbook.
Remember that one year, and it wasn't that long ago, that we all paid for the yearbook and then Abby never got the yearbook. Remember that?
But that's not all that the parents had to pay. The ALDC Parent Committee would also collect money from parents to buy Abby gifts. Christi claims that one year she was put in charge and she collected money from parents to buy Abby an iPod Nano that she never even used. She claims that Abby asked her for a list of all the parents who contributed to the gift and how much it was that they contributed. This kind of information could have definitely intensified Abby's favoritism.
The person who was the head of the ALDC parent committee was out of town, so she asked me to lead the charge in collecting money. It was back when iPod Nanos first came out.
When we got the iPod, yeah.
Yeah,
she never even used it.
Never used it. But do you remember she wanted me to give her a list of parents that contributed?
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely not. And she's like, I want to see a list and how much people contributed.
Being part of the ALDC didn't only cost students financial sacrifices either. Apparently a lot of former ALDC students developed hip issues due to the way that technique was taught at the studio. One former dancer was told that if she kept dancing the way that she was taught, she may not be able to walk in the future. Not to mention that Brooke broke 3 different growth plates during her years of doing contortion at the ALDC.
Somebody took a dance class in New York and a teacher came up to her and said, "Oh, you're one of Abby's girls." And she said, "How do you know?" And she said, "Because you're doing X, Y, and Z wrong." And she's like, "I can tell your hips." And she's like, "You're not going to be able to walk in a year."
I was a contortionist growing up, and I broke, I think, 3 different growth plates.
When the cameras were off, the dancers at the studio were expected to keep attending regular classes with the non-show ALDC students. The mums recalled that production would wrap up and go home for the day, but Abby would make the girls stay at the studio. Abby explains that this means that they were often at the studio until 10:30 at night.
Production would wrap up and go home, and Abby made our kids stay to practice the number.
Or they would have to stay and just take regular classes.
And they wouldn't get out of there till 10:30 easily. Well, after they stopped filming, then they would take their regular classes.
It's no secret that Abby seemed to base some favoritism on class attendance. For instance, she bragged about how Maddie would jump off the competition bus and run straight into rehearsals at the studio, whereas Christi says that she once got into trouble for letting Chloe skip an extra class because she was giving birth to her sister Clara. Both Brooke and Chloe have admitted that they would try to skip ballet class as often as possible. Brooke says that she would change out of her ballet attire and pretend that she didn't have it so that she wouldn't be allowed into the class. Kelly suggests that perhaps this was because one of the ballet teachers at the ALDC gave Brooke a particularly hard time. Christi says that Chloe would go into the bathroom, pretending to cry over her dead dog to get out of ballet classes.
If we got home Sunday and there was rehearsal still going on at that studio, Maddie would jump off of that bus and say, "No, I'm going to the studio. I'm going back to rehearsal."
I was giving birth to my child and wouldn't let her go take an extra dance class, so I got in a lot of trouble that summer. Chloe told me this week while she was home, she's like, "I used to cry over my dead dog in ballet all the time." And I was like, "What?" Like, our dog had died like 5 years before, and she used to cry about her in ballet so she could go to the bathroom.
Our studio didn't let you into ballet if you didn't have a black leotard and pink tights, and of course my mom knew ballet days, so she would drop me off in that. I'd go to the bathroom and change so they wouldn't let me in.
It was Cindy. That's the only one that hated Brooke. I mean, she didn't hate her, but she always gave Brooke a hard time.
Then there was the infamous ALDC booty camp. These would take place at the end of summer, the week before regular classes went back. The ALDC students would learn some competition routines at this time. But lots of the girls from the show didn't want to attend because they were often on a break after filming, dancing, and travelling for 39 weeks straight. Booty camp apparently ran for 8 hours a day, and Abby insisted that it was not optional, even when she herself didn't show up.
At the end of the summer, right before we go back to school or filming Dance Moms, we had something called booty camp. It was like a week long where the kids would have like teachers come in. They needed some time off.
Was different, that like booty camp was like you were there all day.
This next point discusses food issues and body shaming. If this is a subject that could cause you distress or harm, please skip to the time displayed here. One thing that no former ALDC student seems to deny is Abby's rampant body shaming at the studio. The mums have alleged that on several occasions, Abby would take food from their children, telling them that they couldn't eat it. It's no wonder that the girls didn't want to be caught eating in front of Abby.
You know, I remember their dance teacher saying, "You can't eat that. Kenzie, you're eating that burger," as she's eating a Big Mac and it's all over her face.
And the nuggets and shit are right beside her.
Yeah, and then she would take food from our kids' bags.
Chloe was eating M&Ms once from the vending machine in her studio, and she came up and hit them out of her hand and told her ballerinas don't eat M&Ms.
They didn't eat in front of Abby, even though Abby ate constantly.
Apparently there was a scale in the studio positioned under the stereo, which Abby used to weigh her students and publicly shame them. Melissa claims that the kids used to bash these scales and break them on purpose. Kelly and Christi add that Abby would also make their kids leap with potatoes to discourage them from gaining weight.
There's a scale under the stereo system.
But all the scales were broken because all the kids bashed them in and broke them.
She handed them each a 10-pound bag of potatoes.
Yes.
And said, "Jump across the floor, see how hard it is to
what
leap.
It's like when you gain
10 pounds.
You used to have to walk in, get on the scale, I'd write it on the wall. I used to make the kids do grand jetés, which are leaps across the floor, carrying 10-pound bags of potatoes.
Kenzie has explained that from the age of 6 years old, she was told to suck in her gut at dance class. She admits that it's something that still makes her quite self-conscious. Melissa and Kelly have repeatedly accused Abby of giving Brooke and Kenzie's stomachs nicknames in order to shame them. Brittany Pent has also alleged that she was placed into a dance group at the studio that was called the Little Big Shots, specifically because the dancers in that group were chubbier than the other kids. She says that for a long time, theirs was the only team at the studio not to receive team leotards. When the parents complained, they were given leotards, but they were also given skirts to wear over them.
I think when I was 6 years old, my dance teacher told me to suck in my gut. Now that's like the one thing I'm like the most self-conscious about.
She gave their bellies names.
Like, you had baby fat. It's not a big deal. Like, we're called the Big Shots. And then they all got company leotards and they left us out. I remember we had these rhinestone leotards that were so cute. And then we also had rhinestone skirts.
There are many stories of wild and inappropriate behaviour that happen behind the scenes at the ALDC. For instance, apparently Abby took her senior dancers to a bar one year to take photos with the pool tables.
The seniors had a number, it was pool, like a pool table thing. So Abby brought those to, not Mohan's, it used to be another bar there. So she took all the kids into this bar in their teeny weeny little costumes and had them posing on
Pool tables.
pool tables.
Students, parents that are listening, like back in the Berg, I don't know if your kids ever told you this, but I took your children to the Playboy Mansion and we pulled up and we got out of the car and they did dance poses in front of the mansion. Really? We took pictures.
Abby also recalls that parents agreed to let their kids stay overnight with her at the studio sometimes, where they performed seances together. Abby also recalls that she once took her students to the Playboy Mansion to take photos out the front. This is particularly concerning when you consider that she has also been accused of snuggling with her students in hotel beds prior to the show.
We slept there.
We did have slumber
We
parties.
did. Oh yeah. Let's talk about that. You mentioned the sleeping there. Talk about those all-night rehearsals. I remember doing seances like light as a feather, stiff as a board, but I can't remember what group I did that with. It was you guys.
It had to have been us.
And she would like crawl into bed with Maddie or Kenzie, because we always all shared hotel rooms, because this was before dance moms. And she would like snuggle with the girls.
So what do you guys think? Do these stories of the real ALDC experience surprise you? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.